Hello, my name is DXM, and this is me and my friend Inojitsuna's Warframe level cap guide. Both of us have played this game for quite a long time now. We did a lot of level cap runs, so we know a thing or two about it. You can check the video chapters for each topic you may be interested in, though if it's your first time running level cap or if you're interested in level capping, I would recommend watching the whole thing. If you enjoy this guide, a share, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated, since it took me quite some time to make this. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Why even do level cap runs? Let's start with the positives first. The main reason people do level cap runs, it is a great spot to farm a lot of steel essence. I'm talking up to 200 plus, depending on how long you stay in your mission. Now you may ask yourself, what the hell would I need that much steel essence for? It's a good question. There are three main things that you will use steel essence for. Number one, the most obvious one, Kuba. This explains itself why you would want Kuba. Either you use it to reroll Rivens for yourself, or you reroll them to sell them for platinum. Though I must warn you, if you wanna sell them for platinum, don't bother selling them unless you reach like a really good roll or a god roll, like crit chance, crit damage, multi-shot, damage, minus zoom or something like that. Which is roughly a 1 in 300,000 to hit, by the way, so good luck hitting that. Unless you do that, just sell unrolled or trash Rivens, it isn't worth the headache. Second, we got relic packs. These are great for whenever a new Prime Warframe drops, and you just want to quickly get the new frame. The most recent example for this would be Zaku Prime and Trumna Prime. If you saved up enough steel essence, you could buy up to 25 packs, I think the max was. And with some luck, you will have relics for every part, meaning you can have the frame on day 1. The third reason, we got Teshin's weekly gift. This is a rotation of 8 items. 4 of them which are always a must buy whenever they're around. For example, the Umbra Forma Blueprint, 50,000 Kuba, 30,000 Endo, or the Forma pack. Every 4 of those is nice, even though they are kinda expensive, but definitely worth it. The last big reason someone would do a level cap run, it is an easy platinum farm if you do it correctly. I'm talking about Void Cascade and Arcane Gambling. Let's get into why Void Cascade specifically. If you kill Frax units, they have a chance to drop the Zeraman Arcanes, such as Mold Augmented, Mold Efficiency, Eternal Onslaught, and Eternal Eradicate. Each of these Arcanes go for roughly 50 to 60 platinum each if you sell them at rank 5. It's worth mentioning, if you have a mod drop chance booster, the chance will be doubled. So do not mistake this with a resource drop chance booster. This does not do anything for you. If you want to get a mod drop chance booster, you can get them for Barrow, from Sorties, or from Arcane Hunts. This cannot be bought. On the other hand, we have Arcane Gambling. Since in a level cap run, you kill quite a lot of Stalk Acolytes, you're bound to get a lot, and I mean a lot, of primary and secondary Arcanes over the course of a few runs. You can take these to Lloyd and the Sanctum Anatomica and turn them into Phosphor, which in turn can be turned into any set of Arcanes that you want. The one I would recommend most is the Cavia, I think it's called, set, where it's all melee Arcanes. Since Melee Duplicate and Melee Crescendo go for roughly 3 to 400 platinum if you sell them at rank 5. Yes, the prices are pretty insane for that, since they are pretty rare. On the other hand, you also have Melee Influence and Melee Exposure in that pack, which roughly go for 70 plat each. So you got a great all-arounder for easy platinum. This all can be combined with a Omnia Fissure Void Cascade or a Fissure Disruption for double the steel essence and prime parts on the side, which you can then sell for trash or for more platinum. Now that we covered the main peel of level cap runs, let's go over some of the negatives that come with it. The main issue with level cap runs is they require a lot of free time based on what mode you choose to play. I'll put a rough estimate on screen based on what I know how long some of the modes take. As you can see though, the 2 fastest options and the 2 most played options are Void Cascade and Disruption. You need to invest at the very least an hour into Void Cascade if you're good and you're in a team of 4, and roughly 2 hours into Disruption, since the scaling only kicks in hard at around 30. The second big issue for level capping is it has a definite entry requirement in the form of multiple things such as focus choice, amp choice, mod configs, frame choice, and weapon choice. Let's start with the operator amp, its arcanes, and focus choice. Technically, you could play any amp and it would most definitely work up to like level 500-ish. Though the more effective amps and the ones I would recommend you use for level cap runs, are the 547, the 177, or the 777. If you don't know what that means, go search up Warframe M chart on Google, and you will find multiple charts explaining what it is. But my definite go-to for Disruption and Cascade is the 547, since the alternate fire shoots out a homing glaive, and the main fire is a 3-round burst, which hits like a truck. Of course, if you bring the wrong Amp Arcanes and Operator Arcanes, and the wrong focus class, you won't be killing anything above level 1000. So your loadout should always consist of 2 Operator Arcanes. The first slot should be a healing arcane, such as Magus Elevate or Magus Repair. The second arcane should be something like Magus Lockdown. I think the other one was Magus Anomaly, which pulls enemies towards you for crowd control reasons. As for the Amp Arcanes, we almost every time play the same arcanes, Eternal Onslaught and Eternal Eradicate. There's some minor other usage cases for other arcanes, though they're relatively niche. The focus choice is based on what you want to do, but you will mainly play Madurai thanks to Void Strike. This gets you an easy self-res if you have the Waybound Last Grasp from Unairu. Speaking of other focus classes, let's talk about them. You could play Unairu for Armor Strip and a 3' Sure-Footed, the Nurik for Energy Generation, or Vazarin for Protective Sling, though I would not recommend this if you aren't in a squad of 2+ people or you know what you are doing. Next up we have quote-unquote must-have gear wheel items. We have the obvious choices such as energy plates, ammo plates, ciphers, and a crewmate with a well-modded weapon. But we have also an important thing that not a lot of people are using, Spectres. I'll be mainly talking about 2 Spectres here. First up, Agent Healers, and then Warframe Spectres. Agent Healers have quite some nice quality of life, things such as healing you passively, taking away negative status effects such as heat or electricity procs, and providing you with a 3' Sure-Footed as long as you're near them. On the other hand, we have Warframe Spectres. Here there's only one clear choice, it's Dante. He gives you a lot of overguard. Other frames don't even compare to how much benefit the overguard provides you with. It provides you with knockdown immunity and status immunity, which is nuts. If you really don't want to play Dante, if you don't have him, you could play Wisp, though I would recommend you go farm Dante, he is really easy to get. That about covers the positives and negatives of it. Let's hop into 2 more important topics that are basic requirements to playing level cap the right way. First off, we have understanding your Warframe and modding correctly. I cannot stress this enough. It is essential to actually understand your Warframe's weaknesses, strengths, and possible ways to cover the weaknesses through Helminth subsumes or other ways before you actually start going into level cap. To help showcase this, I will take my most recent build guys as an example. It's Garuda. Garuda is great at AoE room clearing, but she struggles with survivability, and against nullifiers or nullifying abilities, they negate her entire damage if they come into contact with the bomb, meaning it just vanishes. If we take a look at her kit, we will quickly see she has a way to generate energy out of thin air because of her free. In return for generating energy, it consumes health though. With that, we instantly know we don't need efficiency, but we need some sort of healing. And on top of that, we can use a shield gaining setup since our ability efficiency is that low. Let's take a look at her other abilities. Her 1 has great use for blocking shots and providing with a consistent room clearing ability, or as I'd like to call it whenever it hits a screen of 2.1 billion damage numbers, Nuclear Bomb versus Coughing Baby. I mean, that speaks for itself. That leaves her 2 and her 4. We have to make a choice now. Do we leave both, or do we subsume one away for a damage buff like Roar to buff status and ability damage? Since there's an arcane to heal you for each point of energy spent, there's a clear synergy to use here. It's Molt Vigor. So based on these clues, we are gonna get rid of her 2, since it's not required in this setup. Now, with her 4 left, we can use that to generate shield and heal us. The ability itself has a problem though. It's a hold to channel ability, meaning you cannot tap cast it. How do we fix that? Well, we fix that with our augment mod. It turns her 4 into a tap cast that we can spam like a maniac and regen our shields and our health. Now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at her stats. We already have energy generation and efficiency covered. That leaves duration, strength, and range. Since we choose to subsume raw onto Garuda, we are gonna need quite a lot of strength to hit a decent raw percentage. After settling on that, that leaves duration and range. If we take a look at her abilities, There are none that specifically require or scale well with duration, so we will go with more range, to have a bigger explosion on her 1 and a bigger range on her 4. As you can see though, if you examine the abilities from the frame, you will pretty quickly spot what a frame actually needs. But let's see what would happen if I modded max efficiency instead. If I did that, I would basically ruin the entire synergy of Brief Respite and Mod Vigor, cause I'm spending less energy, meaning I will have less shields, I will have less health back, and I will have a lower shield gating time, and that leads to a lower HP pool, and that leads to a higher chance of death. While I'm at it, let's explain some mod choices. Let's go over some mods that you should absolutely never use 99% of the time, since they are practically useless for level cap. First off, health and shield mods. These do nothing for you. If everything hits over 50,000 damage per shot, it won't stop you from dying. That extra 500 health is not gonna help you. The only frame that really benefits from, for example, shields is Hero, so we can have a max shield getting time. But besides that, not really many options come to mind where you should play that. Second thing you should avoid, damage reduction mods. I know this may seem controversial or weird, why I would say that, but this stat is practically useless in the entire game, not even only Steel Path or Level Cap. In base Steel Path, you already don't die, and in Level Cap, you already get one-shotted. This stat is just a dead mod space. That 90% from adaptation isn't saving you. Third, resistance mods, these do nothing. I mean, same reasoning as damage reduction. Just keep the mods relevant to the Warframe and its abilities, and you should be fine. So, one thing quickly, you should always play some sort of energy regen, either through Arcane Energize or Equilibrium, but in 99% of cases, these two together are complete overkill. Like, don't play them, it's just a waste of Arcanes and mod spaces. But if you want to commit an actual war crime, use Nourish, Arcane Energize, and Equilibrium at the same time. So I'm pretty sure if you do that, Eno himself will appear to your bed at night. Okay, that was an obvious joke, but do not combine these three, it's completely pointless and it's complete overkill. While I'm on the topic of abilities, let's quickly talk Helminth abilities. Like I explained in the Garuda example, it's always best to determine what your Warframe actually needs. It's the same principle behind choosing the right stats to use the right Helminth. Are you gonna play a status heavy build, use Roar, Zata, Sickening Pulse or Express Suffering? Are you going for pure damage, use Eclipse or Damage Vulnerability? Do you need an Armor Strip, use Terrify, Pillage or Pharaoh Strike? I could go on and on and on about this, but the main point is try to cover your Warframe's weaknesses with the ability you decide to subsume onto it. Don't subsume, for example, Max Pull onto Zefa. She already has a crowd control tool. Why would you need that? That would literally do nothing. Instead, what is Zefa missing? A status damage buff, since she focuses heavily on status damage. I think you understand what I mean. Now, the second point I cannot stress enough. The right weapon loadouts. This in combination with the Warframe setup is essential for a non-scuffed and comfortable level cap run. I will go over 3 categories of weapons that you should bring into a run. First and foremost, the most important slot, a single target weapon. Whether you play Disruption or Cascade, you're going to need this to kill heavy units such as Frax units, Disruptors, and in some cases even Eximus units, since their overguard is stacked to the wazoo in higher levels. A general rule of thumb is you can make anything a single target weapon, but not everything should be a single target weapon. An example for this would be Stug. Yes, you can make it into a single target weapon, but it requires an insane investment, and even after all of that, it is not that good. Try to aim for a weapon that has multiplicative gun CO or is great at Heat Inherit. I will not be explaining these mechanics in depth, since there's plenty of other tutorials from other creators out there which go much more into detail, but if you're interested, there's an outdated GunCO Excel spreadsheet available online that you can easily find. In case you don't know what GunCO stands for, it's Multiplicative Gun Condition Overload. Multiplicative GunCO weapons usually produce the highest single target DPS you can get. For example, Stalta and Queller, their old fires hit like a truck. Heat Inherit, on the other hand, is a more niche thing and typically is used with Furis Incarnon and a Heat Inherit primer. So you can essentially make anything Heat Inherit, keep that in mind. The next slot we're going to talk about is the primer. Here you realistically don't have that many choices. I mean, there's Tysis, Epitaph, Kuba Nuker, Cycron, Compressor, Synapse, Phage, I think that's all of them. My typical go-tos are Phage for the rifle slot and Compressor for the pistol slot. What makes these two a fantastic primer choice is the speed that they prime enemies at. Both require less than a second to fully prime an enemy, and both come with innate viral, so you can easily mod 4 elements: viral, corrosive, radiation, and cold or heat at the same time. That's 4 elements before you even start adding secondary encumber procs. On top of that, they both have a high Riven disposition, meaning you can get a juicy multi-shot status chance, status duration Riven, but let me make it clear, you do not need one, they work perfectly fine without it. Now that we choose our primer and our single target weapon, we're gonna need a weapon that clears rooms for us and kills the trash mobs. This slot in most cases is the melee slot, thanks to melee influence being stupidly broken. I would recommend using Zoris, everyone has that, or Arcatitron, in combination with melee influence. If you have a decent setup, you will easily clear an entire room with 1 or 2 button presses, like it's not a problem at any level. You could also play Glaive Prime with its 4 slash procs, but that will require more investment, such as Rhino's Roar, to work better, and doesn't scale as well anymore as Influence does. If you don't want to play this though, just play around with melees that you like, and eventually you will find something that maybe works for you. My personal favorite is Arcatitron. I featured it in pretty much every build guide since it started content creation. It does insane damage and has an insane range if you build a capacitor. It's nuts, check it out if you haven't. Now with that out of the way, you might be asking yourself, but what is this dude blabbering about? Everything does insane damage, how the hell do I survive? That's a good question. Here's a few things that keep you alive at pretty much any level. The simplest way would be shield gating in combination with rolling guard. You can use this combo everywhere and on every frame except Lavos, since he uses cooldowns instead of energy. Besides that, any other frame, it's easy to upkeep as long as you have the energy for it. Another important way to stay alive is movement. Do not stand still. At levels above 1000, I cannot stress this enough, enemies will just melt you within a second. It's essential to just stay moving. Even if it ends up looking like you drank 5 cans of monster energy in less than 5 minutes, just stay moving. But since breaks are also important, you could pause the game if you are in solo mode, but if you happen to be in a team, you can look for a hiding spot where enemies can't reach you. Yes, every map or every tile set has one of those spots pretty much. Just inform your teammates before you go on a quick break for snacks or whatever, so they know that they should res you if you happen to die. I won't be showing you any of these spots, you can easily find them yourself, just look around, you'll find them. Another important topic that gets neglected way too often is what companions do you bring into a level cap run? You could be boring and just use a Smida Kavat, but that won't do shit for you. Just double your resources and credits. There's only some real choices here that actually provide you with some kind of benefit, such as the Riga, Panzer Profiler, or Hounds. I will put up a mod config that you can replicate. It works. I tested it multiple times. These all work 100% of the time. Using the Riga in combination with a Hellstrom, for example, will result in everything being radiated, primed, and will drop countless health orbs on kills thanks to the synth mods. The Riga specialty is group priming and health orb printing. Here is the Hellstrom setup. It's modded for viral radiation heat, nothing special. Side note, by the way, companion weapons can block Cascadia Flare. Next up, we got the Panzer Profiler. Thanks to Bellringer, you will knock most enemies to the ground and spread viral radiation. It's not as good as the Riga, but it can serve as a source of doubling your resources and credits. So, there's a better choice here. The last choice, the Hound. It's great for priming, but what makes it unique and what makes it really good, it can AoE disarm enemies for you. This is huge. If nothing can shoot at you, that's a huge survivability boost. Or you could play the lamer version, the more risky version. The Eximus ability Steel Hound. I mean, yeah, it can steal Eximus abilities, but doesn't do much for you. But on top of that, it doubles your resources and credits with the mods, so there's that. All three are a valid choice, but the Riga and the Hound are definitely the go-to for me. Now for the obvious elephant in the room, but DXM, why do all of that when I can just play Tord and Revenant? Let me make something clear. This is again how to play level cap properly, not how to lose brain cells. It's honestly more appealing to watch paint dry than it is to play this combo. I won't be showing a mod config of either of those, since I do not condone the usage of them. They take away all challenge and accomplishment there is from reaching level cap. But yeah, if you just wanted a go-to solution for Braindead level cap, there it is. Now with that fiasco out of the way, let's go with something more interesting. Let's talk about Rivens. Let's say something straight, you do not need a Riven to play level cap. Like at all. All they do is cost a fortune and slightly enhance your experience. You kill stuff slightly faster, but that's about it. You get the same results with a well put together build, then you're spending 1000 plat on a semi-godful Riven that won't do shit for you. Especially meta weapons do not need a Riven, like Dual Toxis for example. It can do level cap no problem without one. Long story short, only get Rivens for weapons that you actually enjoy playing, and not because you heard XYZ person say you need a Riven for this weapon for it to be good. That is pure nonsense. Another thing that enhances your experience, it's your settings. There are two main things you should always consider. First, the more obvious one, it's your sound settings. It's important, especially for your first runs, to actually pay attention to sound cues. For example, the disruptor emits a beeping that you might hear before you actually spot the red mark. I usually play without sound since I'm a maniac, but if you're a newcomer, do not do this. Play with your sounds on, learn some of the sound cues. It will help you quite a lot. As for the second setting, this is more useful in general over the entire game. You can find this under accessibility setting. I'm talking about character highlighting, especially enemy highlighting. Setting this to a color that stands out from the environment, such as pink, red, dark blue, green, or a purple or something, it will make your life easier and you will spot enemies way easier. Believe me, ever since I turned this on, I have not turned this off once. Next up, a few miscellaneous things like damage reduction, damage attenuation, armor, shield, and exponential HP growth, starting at level 1000. I won't go too much into detail with this, but long story short, at levels above level 1000, the enemy EHP pool skyrockets above millions. Due to factors like enemy shields, enemy armor, and enemy DR, it's important to prioritize corrosive priming or armor stripping, since armor is usually the largest reason you deal less damage. Since the damage reduction they gain is quite high, it reduces our effective DPS by quite a lot. Damage duration, on the other hand, it reduces how much damage we can deal on certain enemies like disruptors, certain bosses or acolytes. To bypass this, you need to either have a lot of multi-shot and fire rate, or you will need to have one hit that deals a lot of damage. If you don't have either of those, your damage might feel completely non-existent. The last thing I will go over, I'll go a bit more into detail about Disruption and Cascade. Disruption is usually one of the tougher modes to level cap, since disruptors have quite a lot of HP. But it's also super satisfying to play, the noise that they make when you kill them, your eargasm. The key to playing Disruption correctly is learning the tile sets and knowing where demo units come from so you can spawn kill them. Just watch out for the ability disabling aura, it shuts on your abilities, it doesn't care. Just don't get too close, or else it will mess up your rotations. Oh yeah, it also removes stuff like armor strip, etc, so keep that in mind. Also a big thing to watch out for is the content modifier enemy toxin weapons. If you see this, you better haul ass to kill the disruptor, unless you want your whole team to die, because it just bypasses your shields and just instantly kills you. It is a stupid modifier. Please DE remove this for the sake of my sanity, or rework it. It's horrible. The main missions people play is Kappa on Sedna, Tamu on the Kuba Fortress, or Olympus on Mars. Each one has its own ups and downs. Kappa has Nox units, which ignore your shields, basically insta-killing you, but you can farm ghosts on the side. Tamu has Kuba fatties, which are invincible, and they're quite tanky, while also Kuba Grenier have a resistance to heat damage, but on the other hand, you can farm some extra Kuba. Olympus has no real benefit, but it has the mildest negative. It has the ghouls, which spawn cold and toxin clouds on death, so pick your poison. Blood Cascade on the other hand is the most hectic mode for level capping. If you're inexperienced or are playing with a squad or two or fewer players, it is just hell, because there are enemy spawns everywhere. Be aware of enemy spawns and frag spawns, so you don't let them capture your actualizers. The spawns are based on where the players are. Oh yeah, and a fun fact, If an Exilizer gets captured as the relic reward screen pops open, I'm talking about the countdown down from 5, there's a high chance the Exilizer will bug out and be permanently captured and you can't recapture it. It leads to a lot of headache. If this happens with 2 or more Exilizers, it will most probably cost you the run. Fun, ain't it? If you plan on running defense or survival for level cap, you will have to tweak your builds for that. The builds that Eno and I create are usually catered towards either disruption or cascade, not survival or defense, since those two take a long time to level cap, like 4 to 8 hours. That is nuts. The only thing you need in there is most usually AoE damage and a way to kill the Acolyte and a crowd controlling ability. Besides that, not much you have to look out for besides not turning off your brain. But yeah, as long as you keep a cool head, you can easily level cap Disruption, Cascade, or any mode that you choose to. Just bring the right loadout and you will be fine. This video turned out to be way longer than I originally planned it to be. Currently it's over 25 minutes long, so I would appreciate it if you shared this video with your friends and maybe leave a sub. It would really help boost my channel. If there are any questions or you want to add to something I said, feel free to leave it in the comments, because I read the comments. Also, if this video gets a positive reception, I will consider doing guides for other things, but we will see about that. Also, yeah, thanks for the 125 subs at the point of recording this video. That is insane. I'm considering making a Discord server. If you're interested in that, let me know as well, please. But if not, that's fine. Anyways, that's enough yapping for me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.